What's up, everybody? Chris Flick here, Chris Flick Podcast, episode number 164. I've been struggling this past week or two, man. It's like my brain just doesn't want to work. I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know if it's our daughter was home sick last week. I don't know if I had an illness I don't even know about. But my brain, man, it just doesn't want to work. The creative juices are not flowing through my mind. I'm having a hard time writing my newsletters. I'm having a hard time getting my blogs out. I'm having a hard time doing this podcast, getting other videos out. I'm trying to fight that all week here. And today's Wednesday. I think I'm getting back on the right track. One of the ways I'm getting back on the right track here is to talk. There's two things you can do, right? If you're having a hard time thinking and talking, bring up something to get you fired up, right? That'll get the juices flowing. And the second thing, talk about something that you really, that you've been doing. Like what is your almost life's work, And for me, developing athletes, developing kids to enjoy physical fitness, developing kids the right way, we'll say, is something I get excited about. And it's something that does get me fired up when I see the way things are handled these days. Now, last week we had a group in here and we're jumping rope, all right? We're doing some tumbling. We're seeing, hey, could you do a forward roll, stuff like that. And I noticed that there's a certain gap here. These kids could climb and do all this crazy stuff, but some of those things would force the body to slow down a little bit, where you need a little bit of a body control. They were lacking there. So I think in my mind, man, the entry-level stuff, if you have a child that you want to encourage physical fitness, physical activity, and to do it in a safe way, I think that first piece of the foundation that needs to be built is that body control. All right. Now, sports like wrestling, sport for boys, and gymnastics for girls primarily, right? I know that there's some intermingling there of the sexes, right? Where girls wrestle, boys do gymnastics. But, generally speaking, when I was growing up, the kids that wrestled, we did forward rolls, cartwheels, bear crawls, crab walks, things like that. I was always comfortable on the ground, to the point now that I'm in my upper 30s, I could still do this stuff, right? Because I had this foundation that was built a few decades ago. Females, I think they get that foundation built in gymnastics, and it carries over into the rest of their life, whatever physical activities that they get into. The jump rope, for example, is a great tool. I did that a lot growing up, to the point now that I can still jump rope, right? And I think it's important to introduce these skills at a very young age, because then they almost get hardwired into the brain. I'm not saying you need to have your kids doing heavy squats and deadlifts and all that stuff, but what I am saying is start to incorporate things that involve your body control, rhythm. Like jump rope has rhythm. Jump rope has coordinating of the upper and lower body, all right? And then that tumbling stuff, it teaches your kids how to fall. It teaches the kids how to absorb, the ground, so to speak, where if they do go down, they're able to kind of tuck and roll out of it. Many of times I've been in yoga classes in the past where I'm trying to do a handstand or something, or a headstand. I lose balance and go forward. I do a forward roll and I just stand right up. Good to go, right? If I didn't have that foundation growing up, I would not be able to do it. Now, how do we incorporate that with our kids? We get a jump rope. If you have a kid that stays very heavy-footed, when you could hear them running, it's real heavy footfalls, like right? The jump rope could teach us how to be a little bit lighter on our feet. And by doing that, it's going to create the force that our body feels. When we hit the ground pretty heavy, that sends a shock wave through our body, right? We want to be able to absorb the ground the same way I did with the tumbling, with our running and with our movement, right? It's going to save our joints in the long run. So if we can incorporate that stuff now at a young age, teach a kid how to properly jump rope, they're going to have some light footfalls, their joints are going to like it, you're going to have this coordinating effect between upper and lower body, and it's going to start to carry over in other areas that we're going to talk about. Now, the tumbling part of it I already kind of touched on. It's injury prevention, it's body control, it's all of these things where, if you lack that certain body control, it's going to be hard, to develop athletic skills as you get older. So, if we're trying to create a well-rounded kid, a well-rounded athlete, we're going to throw some challenges at them. Here's a jump rope. Get as many jumps in as you can for 2 minutes. They write down what they did. In a week or two, they do it again and they try to beat their number. Okay. From there, once you get to a good number there, then we could progress it. Okay. Then we could start doing some other tricks of the trade, which I'm not going to talk about right now. I'm just talking about the entry-level stuff. Let's get really good on the jump rope and let's start practicing some tumbling, some bear crawls, some rolls, whatever they are. Doesn't matter. Just get comfortable getting down off the ground and getting up. As you get older, right, 60 and above, those falls, man, hitting the ground and hitting it like a sack of potatoes, that's what's going to break some bones. But if you could learn at a young age how to absorb that impact into the ground, it's going to carry over, hopefully, into a healthier, longer life. That's part one. Part two now, let's say you have that stuff down. Let's say you can do all the tricks of the trade. We're going to start looking at relative strength. Relative strength is your ability to move your own body weight, right? That's performing, can you hang from a bar for 30 seconds? Cool. Can you hold your chin above the bar for 30 seconds? Nice. Can you jump and do a chin up? Awesome. Can you hold your chin above the bar and come down really slow? That's controlling your own body weight. That's relative strength. Can you hold the push-up position for a minute or two? All right, that's you and your body. Can you do a push-up things like that. It's a lot of body weight exercises. That's with the relative strength part. So once you build the foundation with some body control and some rhythm and some balance stuff, right? Then we're going to look at relative strength, your ability to move your body around. Can you climb a rope? Can you just hang from a rope? Can you jump on a certain box? Can you, can you do a single leg squat where basically you're sitting down using one leg only and then standing up with one leg only? All right? Things like that. Another cool little fun thing, have the kids sit cross-legged, Indian style, crisscross applesauce, whatever you call it. From that seated position, can you stand up to your feet? All right? There's a longevity study about that if you can do that without touching the ground, you're going to live longer. All right? Why? Because you have a certain, one, it's relative strength, and it's flexibility, and it's mobility and all that stuff, right? All working in unison. Can you do these things? That's relative strength, okay? And then from there, we'll move to absolute strength, which is your ability to move some weights. Now we're getting a little bit older as we move through the ranks here. We're going to teach maybe a kettlebell deadlift with the weight in between your legs, a goblet squat, an overhead press with a light bar, a bench press with a light bar. We're going to start teaching a hang clean. We're going to start teaching a front squat, right? I have 9, 10, and 11-year-olds starting to learn how to front squat properly. And it's fine. They're using a 15-pound bar to start. And they're getting the technique, they're getting all that stuff ingrained in their mind, that once puberty starts hitting, once they start maturing a little bit, sky's the limit, man. They're just going to be able to get right into it and get after it because they have all of that learning kind of intertwined is what I was going to say, but just kind of hardwired is probably a better word. Just hardwired into their body, right? They get that repetition at a young age, and once they get older, man, it's go time. And then from there, right? But we don't want to focus on absolute strength if we don't have the relative strength, all right? If you can't do a push-up, setting a big-time bench press doesn't really matter. So we have to make sure that we progress this stuff accordingly. We have some body control and some rhythm and some tumbling at the young ages. Then we're going to move to your body's, your own ability to move your weight around to absolute strength, and where we're going to try to build some strength. And then from there, it's going to be like speed and power stuff. So once you have that foundation, but I mean, this is like, each block is almost like 2 to 3 years, I feel like, as they start to get older. You know, in that 4 to 7 range, you could do the jump rope and tumbling. From 7 to 9, you could start introducing different, 7 to 10, we'll say, introducing more relative strength stuff. You know, from, 10 to 12, you could start introducing some barbell stuff, right? And then from 12 and beyond, we're going to start looking at some power stuff, where once you have all these other areas fine-tuned and developed, then you can start adding speed to your stuff. If you don't have relative strength, if you don't have the ability to do body weight stuff, you're probably not going to be able to move your body weight fast in a sprint. So we plant the seed with relative strength, right? And then we kind of let that seed grow a little bit and try to add strength, absolute strength on top of that. From there, we will try to add speed on top of that strength. And if you're able to do that, you're going to have a nice, strong, resilient kid that is probably going to excel on the sport. Don't rush any of these steps. Take your time, develop them, and enjoy every step of the way. Make sure it's fun. Don't kill these kids with too much too soon, and enjoy the ride, man, because it's going to be a long one. You want these kids living long, healthy lives. I hope you guys like this. Chris Flick Podcast. We're on YouTube, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all that stuff, man. Like it, subscribe, leave us a review. Also, go to chrisflick.net, subscribe to my newsletter. It's a pop-up. It comes up right away every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. It comes directly to your inbox, the weekly word, man. Hope you guys like this episode. Peace.